Okay, here we go. Time for another video. If you follow me here or on other platforms, you may know that about a month ago or something I put out a new book. I call it The Secrets of Sound Healing, and as promised I will create a few videos where I share content from that book. Now, when I say book, I use that term loosely because this one is pretty thin. It's probably more like a pamphlet or something, a brochure, than a book. But hey, let's call it a book, eh? Let's call me an author. It sounds so much cooler, right? And it doesn't matter the size of a book or the number of pages. What matters is the content of a book, and I promise you that this one is absolutely packed with priceless content, with super valuable information if you are interested in the sound healing or sound therapy field. A combination of my two books, 432 Hertz, The Magic and Mystery of Sound and Music, and this one, The Secrets of Sound Healing, will give you an amazing fundament for your practice. What's happening with my voice today? And today I'm going to talk about words and music. Some people complain that I don't sing in English and that they can't understand what it is that I'm saying. And I explain to them that this is actually an advantage when it comes to a sound healing situation. Because when we listen to music with words in the language that we understand, our minds immediately start working with attaching ideas and concept to those words. In the case of instrumental music, or in the case of music in a language that we don't understand, our minds have nothing to latch onto, so it becomes quiet, it settles down, and it enters much more easily into meditative states, which is what we want in the sound healing situation. So I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with singing in English. I'm not saying that I will never ever sing in English. I just might. But don't be so concerned with understanding the words. It's not important. When you don't understand the words just become abstract sound, because after all, words are just sound. They only mean something to us because we have attached that meaning to them. There are, of course, words or specific sounds that have healing properties or meditative properties, such as mantras in Sanskrit. But today, mantras, or what a mantra is largely misunderstood. Today it seems like most people talk about a mantra as sort of a motto or an affirmation. And this is not what a mantra is at all. Mantras are key sounds to unlock the matrix, if you will, that is our physical and non-physical existence. And today this is pretty simple to explain to pretty much anyone, because you can compare it to computer software. If you know coding, you can make the software behave in pretty much any way you want, and you can create any kind of outcome you want. So mantras are codes or keys to consciously create any kind of situation that you want. So it's very useful to know. I'm not claiming to know a lot about this. I'm not a scholar in mantras or Sanskrit whatsoever. I know a little bit, so I share a little bit. But if you want deeper knowledge on this, I'm afraid you will have to go elsewhere. Sanskrit, compared to, for example, modern English or any other modern language, is a completely different thing. It is not a language that is made up by humans. It is a language that has been discovered by humans by going into meditative states or trance states or any type of altered states of consciousness that shamans and yogis and whatnot have done, and discovering the inherent sound in any form in existence, because everything in existence has its own inherent sound And from this we have gotten the Sanskrit language. And modern English or modern Norwegian or any other modern language really is more or less made up of random sounds. And the sounds themselves and the meaning that we attach to the sounds themselves have very little or nothing to do with the actual form that this sound belongs to. This is a bit complicated and I don't know much about this at all, but yeah, like I said, sharing what I know. And when you think about this, and when you know that we have a tendency to speak things into existence, it's no wonder that we create a little bit of chaos for ourselves when we say something with a certain intention, but the actual sound itself has nothing to do with that intention at all. That's something to think about. I've been thinking about how to figure this out, because it's hard to get around in the world without speaking, and you can't just make up some language. I mean, people have to understand. When I make these YouTube videos, I have to do them in English or pretty much nobody will understand what I'm saying. But in day-to-day life, the trick is, I have found, just stay silent. Talk as little as possible, think as little as possible. Silence is definitely the key. Anyway, let's move on. In many of my songs I sing in Old Norse. I don't write these songs myself. I adapt poetries from a collection of poems called the Edda. The Edda means great-grandmother, and these poems were written down in the 1100s or 1200s, but they have been passed on orally for thousands and thousands of years. And the poems themselves are far older than the Norse culture. You can find not necessarily the same poems, but poems or stories dealing with the same subject matter, or roughly the same stories even, all over the world. These are the stories that have been told around fires for generations of human beings. This, of course, makes the poems special and magical in themselves, but what makes them even greater is the expertise with which they have been written. If you know something about sacred sounds and you begin to see patterns in these poems of how the sounds are combined, and the true magic of these poems are in the combination of sounds. Once again, I wish I could explain this better. I am working on understanding this, but this is rocket science, and I am a very simple monkey. So I can't really say much about this, but I see it when I read it, and when I hear it, and when I sing it. I see the patterns, I see how it happens, and I'm working on breaking down the formula, or understanding the formula, so that maybe one day I can write myself and maybe come close to this kind of expertise, or at least maybe even explain it in a better way. For now, I urge you to look it up. You can find it online in the original language. You can also find English translations, of course, but in the translations all of the magic is lost. You get the story, which can be interesting enough in itself, but to get the true poetry, you have to read it in the original language, which is worth the effort, I promise, and it's not as difficult as you might think. You don't even have to understand it to appreciate the sounds and to understand that very special, this incredible combination of sounds that is being used. If you don't want to do this, you can of course listen to my songs in Old Norse, and you can get a glimpse of what it is that I'm talking about. And of course, there's always instrumental music, which might be actually the best thing for sound healing. Who knows? I think that's enough for this video. If you appreciate the work I do, if you'd like to support me somehow, there are many ways you can do it. You can go to Amazon and get any of my books. They are available in all countries, both as paperback and Kindle. You can listen to my music in Spotify. You can download in iTunes. I'm also in Bandcamp, SoundCloud. It's here on my YouTube channel. It's also on YouTube Music. Deezer, Google Music, Amazon Music, Bandcamp, did I say that? I think I'm on pretty much all the major platforms. You can also follow me in social media. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I also have a website that I will link in the description of this video, where you will find links to pretty much everything I do. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video and it made some kind of sense to you. I really appreciate you watching once again, and I'll be back soon with more. Thank you.